name is Laura Gibson-Lamothe. I'm with the Georgia Fintech Academy, and it's a pleasure to have you, Sven, here today to talk with
Pleasure to
us.
be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about your role and function at Corpay?
Yeah, of course. My role is president and GM of the AP automation space at Corpay. So really what that is the operations of invoice management as well as payments automation. So the whole procure to pay functionality.
Oh, that's a very critical function across the industry. And I know you guys have tons of clients in your portfolio. What excites you about next gen, and what are your strategies as far as talent acquisition within your organization?
So the biggest still improvement area that we have is market awareness of AP automation outsourcing as a function. And so I see a lot of opportunity for the next generation of talent, both in marketing, sales, but then also clearly adoption of AI. I think it doesn't really matter in the future what type of role you'll be executing. The requirements of somehow leveraging ChatGPT or a different chatbot is going to be critical to your day to day. So adopting that functionality now is going to be critical so that you then get embedded into the organizations faster and also can prove more value. Because what I get super excited about with somebody who can leverage something like ChatGPT more fully is they're going to be much more efficient. They're going to get rid of a lot of their administrative tasks, which regrettably a lot of more junior individuals need to or end up executing. And instead, they'll be able to focus on the more strategic ideas or have more of those strategic conversations and get more embedded into the actual core decisions that any company is trying to make.
Yeah.
And then hopefully, actually, I see it as an opportunity for people to grow within a company amongst the ranks much, much faster.
You know, a lot of our students feel intimidated, I think, thinking about AI and what that means to their roles. You also are talking about or hitting on some of the soft skills that's
Yep.
really required, critical thinking skills.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on kind of what you think students should be preparing for when they're looking for a career in the industry?
So I think critical thinking is a core component. I don't see how AI will ever be able to replace that
Yeah.
because to your point of soft skills, how I communicate to one person in the organization, to a prospect, to an existing customer, those are very different. I may
Yeah.
actually talk about the same exact thing, but for an AI agent to be able to perfect that type of skill is hard. And so for me, it's how do you leverage AI from a more analytical perspective, data management perspective, so that you can then work on actually leveraging those insights. And honestly, yes, it may be a little bit daunting to adopt that type of technology today because it wasn't part of the education curriculum.
Yeah. Yeah.
But be aware that most companies are still trying to figure it out as well. And honestly, I think a lot of employers, ourselves included, are looking, do you have that natural interest to be able to learn how
Yeah.
to actually leverage it?
Yeah.
A job, especially if you're earlier on in your career, we're more hiring you for the potential,
Yeah.
not on the hard skills that you have come day.
Oh, wow. That's really encouraging. And I thank you for sharing that with us. You know, for the folks in our audience that do not know, you and your organization have chosen to sponsor student participation in this particular event so that they can actually demonstrate some of those skills that you mentioned. What is the rationale behind the sponsorship, and why does it mean a lot to Corpay to be able to provide opportunities like this for students?
Yeah. I mean, it starts with the future is the younger generation, right?
Yeah.
And so being based globally, but here in Atlanta, Georgia, in Transaction Alley, we see that we have a little bit of requirement to enable further growth for the next generation. And we're lucky enough to have experienced a ton of that growth over the last 25 years that we've been around. And we've expanded not just in Atlanta, but our footprint globally. And so we think that bringing some of that global aspect also directly here to the South
Yeah.
is an important benefit that not only we can just bring, but also to just create more awareness that, hey, the payments, yes, may be very focused here in Atlanta, but there are a lot of opportunities globally on
Yeah.
how you can embed yourself. And the good news is payments in the broad scope are more consistent from culture to culture, language to language.
Yeah.
And so I think it is also a global subject matter expertise that you can develop and
Yeah.
then um, grow with that throughout your entire career. And then the last
Mm.
thing that I would just say is I just think it's phenomenal to be able to interact with the younger generations.
Yeah.
I typically interact more with people that have a little bit of gray hair, and
Yeah.
to just get the vantage point of somebody who's newer to the space and is
Mm.
just genuinely asking out of curiosity to learn, it sometimes actually triggers new ideas on our front of how we can potentially get ahead of some of the market changes, because somebody who's 25 today is going to
Yeah.
be 35 not too far,
Oh,
right?
that's so true.
And they will then end up being potentially one of our core customer demographics.
There's so many gems in what you said. I really appreciate that you
Of course.
highlighted selfishly for me and leading the FinTech Academy. One thing that stuck out at the beginning of what you just said was the fact that because Corpay has an instance in an office here in Atlanta, you felt like it was a requirement to contribute to the ecosystem here and to the talent pipeline that we're developing. And I think all of our community partners should consider that same requirement. So I love that. The other piece around talent that I think is really critical is that our industry is aging. And I think it is on us to help, plant that seed and help pay it forward to that next generation that will soon take our place, our spots in the industry and innovate, as you mentioned before. So I
Those
really
gray
appreciate you saying
hairs need
that.
to be replaced.
Yes, they do. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And
Thank you so much for
is there
having me.
anything you would recommend for our audience as far as like researching Corpay or getting in contact with Corpay? Some of our folks that might be interested in the solutions that you guys offer.
Of course. I mean, honestly, ChatGPT is the new Google for me. Just ask who Corpay is at ChatGPT. It'll simplify it pretty quickly for you. Our website has a lot of great content as well. I always, if you are genuinely curious about learning more about a company and they end up being publicly traded, I always recommend to listen to the latest earnings call. They're not too long. They're 60 minutes. There's a very helpful Q&A that's half of that,
Mm,
which really enables you to get a better understanding of how investors are thinking of the space,
yeah.
which is then also something that is reflective of, do people still think that this is market or demographic that's going to continue to grow? And
Wow.
luckily, I think the payments path is we're still at the very early days. I think we're about to hit an inflection point where higher adoption of these types of services
Yeah.
are going to come upon us, and we'll see tremendous amount of growth and innovation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Finn. That
Sure.
and that recommendation at the end. And for anyone that's interested, follow us on the Georgia FinTech Academy site for more content like this. Thank you, Sven, for joining us today. Appreciate
Thanks so
it.
much for having me.
Thank you.